Ukrainian SBS destroys Shahed depot in occupied Donetsk, December 30th, 2025. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. I'm Alex. Join you with Arya in the latest podcast by Defense Report for a sharp, no-nonsense breakdown of the latest in global defense news, military technology, and strategic developments. And today, we're going to cover
a single strike that tells us everything we need to know about the future of warfare.
The news broke on December 30th, 2025, and it was confirmed. Ukrainian Unmanned Systems Forces, the USF, they successfully executed a deep strike.
A very deep strike. And it completely obliterated a major Russian Shahed drone logistics hub.
Right inside the grounds of Donetsk International Airport.
And, the key detail, the thing that really confirms just how important this target was, is the report of a powerful secondary detonation.
Exactly. That's not just a building coming down.
No, that's the logistical chain. That's munitions, fuel, specialized parts, everything going up in one massive fireball.
And that kinetic event, that explosion, is really the starting point for our deep dive today.
It is, because this one strike, it reveals so much about the technological revolution that's happening in warfare right now.
It's proof that innovation and, agility can really counter pure industrial scale, and it had immediate, far-reaching consequences.
Which is why our mission today is to unpack this, to look at what this single strike tells us about Ukraine's success in this deep fight and the strategic fallout it triggered from Moscow almost instantly.
And we've got some incredible details for you. We're going to look at how Ukraine actually built the world's first military branch dedicated solely to this kind of unmanned warfare.
We'll also reveal the sheer scale of what they're up against. We're talking about Russia's drone production, where something like 200 attack drones are rolling off the line every single day.
And we'll show you exactly how strikes like this one in Donetsk undermine the entire industrial effort.
And crucially, we have to connect this to the bigger strategic picture, the immediate escalation.
You mean Russia's decision on the very same day to put nuclear-capable Oreshnik missiles into active service in Belarus?
Exactly, a direct response.
Okay, let's unpack this and start with the target itself. You need to understand. This facility in Donetsk, it wasn't some minor outpost.
No, not at all. This was a high-value operational nexus for the Russian Unmanned Systems Forces in the Donbass.
The main hub.
The main hub. For storage of the Geran and Shahed platforms, yes, but also for their complex assembly and all the pre-flight servicing.
So we're talking about the Iranian-designed Shahed 136s.
And the newer Russian-developed ones, the Geran, the Geran 3, this was the spot where it all came together.
And beyond just the drone bodies, the plastic hardware, this site was critical because it housed the central warhead storage.
Right. That secondary detonation proves they didn't just hit empty shells, they hit the high-explosive payloads, the things intended for Ukrainian cities and infrastructure.
And it was also a concentration point for all the specialized technical staff, the people who actually make these things work.
Hitting this, you degrade the entire system. You hit the hardware, the munitions, and the human expertise, all in a single blow.
And what's really fascinating here is that this was the result of a very sophisticated multi-month intelligence cycle. This was not a lucky shot.
Absolutely not. They knew this site had been progressively militarized by Russia. They watched it, they planned, and then they struck.
The sophistication of the strike itself also shows, I think, a real maturity.
It does. This was developed by the Intel Directorate of the 414th Separate Brigade.
Magyar's birds.
Magyar's birds, that's them. And they worked with the new Deep Strike Center of the USF grouping. So this wasn't some independent operation. This was coordinated at a very high level.
Which brings us to the strategic significance. You call this kinetic diplomacy.
That's what it is. It's the use of military strikes to directly influence political negotiations. By hitting a core logistics hub deep in occupied territory, Ukraine is sending a signal.
To Moscow, but also to Western partners.
Exactly. The signal is that Ukraine's ability to wage this deep fight is still very much alive, regardless of what's happening on the ground.
And that deep kinetic ability is just so critical right now, isn't it, with these peace talks sort of swirling around?
It's a powerful operational lever. It degrades Russia's most potent tool for winter bombardment, and it complicates their negotiating position at the table.
So the ability to do this is rooted in one of Ukraine's greatest wartime innovations, the Unmanned Systems Forces, the USF.
It is. I mean, this is literally the first dedicated branch of its kind anywhere in the world, formally established back in June of 2025.
That sounds impressive, but what really defines it? How do they avoid the traditional rigid military structure to keep up with tech?
They did it by completely rethinking the management. It's founded on a philosophy of effective decentralized management, and they prioritize civilian skills.
So it's more like a tech startup.
In a way, yes. The commander, Major Robert Magyar Brovdi, he was a businessman before the war. And that integration of civilian agility, rapid procurement, quick iteration with military needs is paying off massively.
It must be. The numbers are just shocking. The USF grouping accounted for, what was it, 35.4% of all verified destroyed or damaged targets across the entire military in August 2025.
35.4%. And you have to stop and think about what that means.
It's huge.
It's enormous. It translates directly into efficiency. Imagine achieving a third of your military successes with smaller, cheaper, remotely operated systems instead of just relying on expensive artillery or aviation.
And you see it in the growth. Magyar's own unit, the Magyar's Birds Regiment, is expanding threefold. It's becoming the first brigade of unmanned systems.
Right, and that's not just more pilots. It's electronic warfare units, dedicated repair teams, even their own in-house FTV drone assembly.
So they can iterate based on feedback from the front lines, just like a tech company.
Exactly. And this focus on agility and innovation stands in, well, sharp contrast to the sheer brute force industrial scale that Moscow is trying to achieve.
Russia's solution is just to throw massive industrial weight at the problem.
Overwhelm Ukrainian air defenses with sheer volume. That's the plan.
And their main production hub is that special economic zone, Alabuga, in Tatarstan.
That's right. They signed a $2 billion license agreement with Iran back in 2023, and the output is just staggering, an average of about 200 Geran drones a day.
A day.
Per day.
Yeah.
Their goal is about 6,000 Geran drones a month, and they want to ramp that up even further.
The strategy is simple then. Flood the skies, force Ukraine to use expensive interceptors on cheap drones.
And it's clear that Ukraine's success with USF is forcing Russia to adapt internally. The Russian Defense Minister, Andrei Belousov, he's actually trying to copy the model.
Because he comes from an economic background himself. He sees the efficiency.
Precisely. They're appointing people with similar business backgrounds, like Yuri Vaganov, to lead their own USF efforts. They're trying to scale up procurement, improve efficiency. It's a clear sign that Ukraine's innovation has forced a strategic response.
The Donetsk strike, though, as brilliant as it was, is part of a much broader deep strike strategy. It goes beyond just military targets.
Oh, absolutely. It targets the economic front, what some are calling drone sanctions.
If we connect the dots, Ukraine's campaign against Russian oil refineries has created real systemic problems in the Russian economy all through 2025.
It has. You're talking about the domestic fuel shortages, price spikes, all sorts of distortions.
And we've seen some critical hits recently. The Syzran refinery, Uripinsk-Fipsky, the impact of these can be crippling.
Let me give you a specific example. The October strike against the Syntez oil refinery. That single attack shut down their CDU-6 unit.
Which is?
For you, the listener, CDU is the crude distillation unit. It is the absolute heart of a refinery. Hitting it immediately knocked out 150,000 barrels per day of capacity. That was 40% of the entire plant's output. And it took a full month of highly technical repairs to bring it back online. That's economic warfare by drone.
And it's not just land targets. Ukraine has successfully taken this unmanned capability to the sea as well.
Yes, and we saw a historic first. The first confirmed use of an unmanned underwater vehicle, a UUV, in a strike in naval history.
A huge moment.
It was. On December 14th and 15th, an underwater drone hit a Russian Kilo-class submarine while it was docked at Novorossiysk Naval Base.
And that specific submarine class is vital for Russia.
It is. They use them to launch Kalibr cruise missiles. Striking it in its home port shows that no asset, no matter how far back it is truly safe.
So all these successes, the economic hits, the Donetsk depot, are happening against the backdrop of some really critical diplomatic negotiations.
Exactly. President Zelensky was just finalizing that 20-point peace plan with Donald Trump after a late December meeting. So these operational wins become crucial bargaining chips.
And Russia's response to this display of kinetic strength?
To maintain an obstructionist posture and, well, to leverage massive strategic threats. The Kremlin line is consistent. No peace agreements right now.
They're still demanding their 2021 ultimatums about NATO.
Demands that are complete non-starters, of course.
And this is where the strategic signaling really hits hard.
Yes. On December 30th, the very same day the Donetsk strike was confirmed, Russia announced that the nuclear-capable Oreshnik missile system had entered active service in Belarus. Up to 10 systems.
That's the nuclear muscle flexing.
It is. Why respond to a drone strike with an intermediate-range ballistic missile? It's not a conventional response. It's pure strategic deterrent signaling. It's Moscow telling the West, you can win the drone fight, but we still hold the ultimate escalation card.
And this Oreshnik system is terrifying. Putin claims it's immune to interception, flying at Mach 10, capable of reaching all of Europe.
The deployment fits perfectly with Russia's revised nuclear doctrine, which now formally puts Belarus under its nuclear umbrella. It's an aggressive move to regain the initiative.
And yet, despite all this aggressive signaling and the propaganda like falsely claiming they seized Pokrovsk, that nuclear threat doesn't really reflect the grinding reality on the front lines.
And that's the key takeaway here. While Russia engages in nuclear posturing, their ground advances are slow and costly. They're relying on these high-casualty infiltration tactics, not successful mechanized assaults.
The deep strikes are actually degrading the very logistics they need for those big breakthroughs.
Exactly. So, to summarize this deep dive, Ukraine's Unmanned Systems Forces are proving that specialized innovation and persistent strikes deep into enemy territory are essential tools for a smaller force.
They are successfully degrading Russia's ability to sustain this mass drone campaign.
Even as Moscow responds with its massive industrial scale and, escalates its strategic signals with things like the Oreshnik deployment, it's a classic tension. Organizational learning versus a centralized industrial giant.
We've seen Russia adapt, of course. They're forming new divisions, trying to restructure their own USF. But since Ukraine relies so heavily on global supply chains for drone parts, specialized batteries, motors, chips, the question for you is this.
What's next?
What is the next critical logistical vulnerability that Russia will prioritize targeting to try and undermine Ukraine's deep strike advantage? It's a constant, evolving fight.
That evolving threat is what defines the next chapter of this war.
You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Aria, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry.
Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.